Welcome back to my channel for my weekly Human Design Transit Report. Today is Monday, October 17th, and the transit that we're in right now, I talked about a lot in last week's transit report. So if you want to know what's happening like right now and for the next couple of days, you can go here and check out last week's transit report. And I'm going to talk primarily today about the transit that's coming up that starts on Thursday, because I like to give you this information ahead of time so that you can really be working with it and understanding what's coming your way by the time that Thursday gets here. So let's go ahead and dive in. So on Thursday, October 20th, the Earth is going to move into the gate 3 and the Sun is going to move into the gate 50. This is a very interesting and dynamic combination. So the gate 3 is on the sacral center and it's in the knowing circuit. And in traditional human design, it's known as ordering, and in quantum human design, it's known as innovation. It's also known, I think this is from the I Ching, it's also known as difficulty at the beginning, which really makes a lot of sense when you think of it in terms of innovation, right? So it is the energy for bringing new things out. I mean, the knowing circuit is plugged directly into superconsciousness. We still have Pluto lighting up that 61, which is bringing in energy from the superconsciousness, right? And it comes down, it splits, goes around the two sides of the body and up through the central channel. And when it comes up through that central channel, it comes up through the 3. And the 3 is taking the energy that's come through that knowing circuit and going, okay, we're going to really innovate with all of these different breakthrough, out of the box, new possibilities, kinds of thinking and ways of being and expressing oneself. And we're going to innovate with that, right? But you can imagine that when you're doing that, there could be difficulty at the beginning. That would totally make sense to me because, the knowing circuit, it's the largest sub-circuit in the chart. It's in individual circuitry. It's really the evolutionary impulse of humanity. And so it's going to have things that don't fit in. I mean, the individual circuitry doesn't fit in, doesn't care about fitting in. That's not what it's about. It's really about being on that leading edge of consciousness and bringing in new things and helping us to evolve. So the 3 is in that. So that totally makes sense, right? Is that it is this energy for innovating, and it can be difficult at the beginning. I think a lot of times people who have a lot of individual circuitry, as I do, can have difficulty when they're young because we don't fit in. Right? We don't fit in. We think different. We do things differently. But then when you get to be older, once you've got through that difficulty at the beginning, it can be awesome because then you're like, wow, I'm my own person. And, I have my own style and I care about my own things and I create things that are different than what everybody else does. Right? So that's that kind of an energy. So you want to be able to ground yourself in the energy of that 3. So that you can be receiving and accepting and playing with and working with different innovative ideas that come your way, or you can be going, okay, I've wanted to innovate something. I am already innovating something. And yes, I've had difficulty at the beginning, or I haven't even wanted to start it because I could see there was going to be difficulty at the beginning. But that 3 is going to be like, go for it, right? You've got the support of that earth energy right now in the things that you want to innovate. And if I just reflect on last week's transit a little bit, the Earth was in the 42, which is also on the sacral center. The 42 is about finishing things. It's about concluding things. And one of the things I talked about in last week's transit report is what a great time it is for you to finally be concluding, completing, finishing things that you've had. Now, if you've taken advantage of the transit, we're in it right now, goes until Wednesday. If you take advantage of that and finish things up, right, then you'll have more energy for the new things, for the innovation. But when you have a lot of things that are hanging on, that are incompletions, right? Incompletions are very draining to your energy. When you've got a lot of that, then it's hard to get going with an innovation because you're like, I really should finish that before I get this started. But I don't want I don't think I'm the only person who has that kind of inner dialogue. So doing the work of finishing things up, right, will clear the way so that then this innovative energy can come in. And the earth is really inviting you to take advantage of that. Then the sun is going to move into the gate 50, which is also on the spleen, like the 32, which is where the sun is in the current transit, right? So it's going to move into the gate 50, which is on the spleen center, and it's also part of the tribal circuit. So we've got a little theme going on here. But it's not the same part of the tribal circuit as the 32. It's the part that really has to do with family, with people who are close in. It's part of what in traditional human design is known as the defense circuit. So the 50 in traditional human design is known as values, and in quantum human design is known as nurturing. And this is a really beautiful energy. It's an energy for taking care of others. It's an energy for knowing what our values are and passing our values on to the youngers or to other people. It's a way that we know who we are as a people is through our values, through our standards of behavior. It's like, try to talk to that person before you punch them. You know what I mean? It's like it's the standard of behavior, right? It's like we try not to, go to violence immediately. It doesn't usually get you what you want, right? What are the standards of behavior? What are the values that we care about, right? Coming from compassion, coming from love, coming from mutuality, for egalitarianism, democracy, all of these things. These are all values. And you get to look at how that plays out for you in your tribal relationships, which are the people that are close in and the people who are, around you, but not far out, right? People closer in. And I think it's been renamed nurturing in quantum human design because it is an energy for nurturing the others, nurturing the tribe, helping us to really kind of bring up the youngers, helping the tribe to continue, if you will, right? And so there's a nurturing there. It's also a teaching energy, right? It's like, how do we understand who we are, right? And how do we help other people to understand that, whether those are just the little ones or whether it's other people who are kind of coming into our communities. Like if you're somebody who has an online community, right? You're going to have, standards of behavior. You're going to have values that are going to attract people into your online community. And you want to let them know what they are. Like I know a lot of times when I go into an online community, it'll say things like, no hate speech, be respectful. Don't necessarily give people a bunch of advice if they're just trying to express something from their heart. They may not want a bunch of advice. Those are all things that are related to like the gate 50, right? So it happens in a variety of different places that we see in our world. So as I ground ourselves in the gate 3, the gate of innovation, right? Then we can also express these values with freshness. Right? Because our values don't have to stay the same. I think just to go back to this online community thing, I mean, so many of us spent so much more time in online communities during the pandemic, right? Than we did before. And so we have a whole kind of new relationship often to online communities. And a lot of things needed to get developed in order to be like Zoom, right? It's like, oh, what's Zoom etiquette? It's like if you're walking around with your laptop, you like turn your video off because otherwise other people start to feel like they're, moving around the room with you and it's really distracting, right? And so that's something that we needed to innovate in terms of our values and our standards. And here we are creating this community in this Zoom room. And so we had to innovate to come up with, well, what are our, how do we, have an etiquette for being in a Zoom room so that everybody can have the best experience for themselves. Like we all learned how to, mute ourselves so that, the background noise doesn't go out over, the airwaves into everybody else's room, right? There were these fundamental things that we did. And then there's also the, how do we actually have something like a circle where we would have sat actually in a circle with each other, and talk together. How do we do that in a Zoom room, right? So that's just a really practical real life example of how that 3 and that 50 can work together. So my question for you is kind of, where are you with innovations in your life? Where are you with your communities, with your family? And does any of the ways of behaving need to be evolved, right? Is there some way to innovate? Like if the forms of communication that you have with each other, if they're just kind of not really working, right? Like what can you do to evolve them? What can you do to be like, okay, you know what? I would really love it if instead of interrupting me, if you just waited until I finished what I was going to say, because sometimes when you do that, I can't remember what else I was going to say and I get kind of disrupted. And so do you think you could do that? And so that is a way to innovate the ways that we agree that we're actually going to be communicating with each other. And right now, Mercury is lighting up the gate 48, which is the gate of wisdom. And so you could be tapping into some wisdom around communication that could help you to innovate the ways that you have agreements about what it is, how you're communicating, how you're being together in the tribe. Okay, so I hope that's giving you a little bit of a sense of how you can work with these different energies, because they intersect with each other, right? They intersect and they stimulate each other. And when you can grab a hold of them and go, oh, yeah, I could do it like that, then they will really be your ally in doing that. And you can create something that will still be with you even once the transit has passed. Now, the potential pitfall with this transit is that with the 3 is that you allow yourself to continue to be stymied, right? You have difficulty at the beginning and you just kind of give up. You're like, it's hard. I don't want to do it. You start getting into a, negative mindset about it, right? That can definitely happen. And that will stymie your innovation for sure. And with the 50 can be kind of codependent, right? It can be, you can get kind of overly attached to standards of behavior, for example, right? You can be like, why is that person talking? They shouldn't be talking, at this particular time, right? And then you turn that person into, some kind of an enemy or a demon. I know that's extreme, but sometimes the mind does that, right? Because they're speaking out of turn or they're not paying attention the way that you want them to. That kind of thing. And so, and just to say, different cultures around the interrupting thing, different cultures have really different ways of being. Like I had a Jewish friend when I was at Columbia who, she used to interrupt me all the time. And I was like, will you please stop? And she was like, you know what? This is just like, we're in New York. This is Jewish culture. This is what we do all the time. And I really had to take that in. I still didn't love it, but I also didn't have the same kind of negative association with it that I did before. So I needed to, upgrade my understanding about that. So that's also part of it when we're looking at standards or behavior, things that we think, is this right or is this wrong, right? To kind of loosen that up so that we don't become little dictators to saying, you have to behave this way. You have to wear matched socks. You have to have your hair this way, just all that stuff that we can do to each other, right? And so there are some unhelpful codependent, can be potentially controlling ways that we're trying to foist our values and our ways of being and even our nurturing onto other people. So we want to watch out. Those are a couple of pitfalls, right? Is just giving up because it feels difficult, or becoming, a little bit controlling with others, because we don't want to do that either. That's my transit report for this week. If you haven't had a chance to download my free ebook series, Getting Started with Human Design and the Reflection Journal, I really encourage you to do so. It will help you to understand the human design chart, what the different parts of it are, what's going on there, and also your own chart. Plus, in the Reflection Journal, it'll give you prompts to go in and apply what you learn to your own chart and to your own life. It will also put you in my online community, and you will be the first to know about some really cool stuff that I'm cooking up. Okay, many blessings, much love. Bye for now.